When I collapsed at work, the doctors called my parents. They never came. Instead, my sister tagged me in a photo. Family day without the drama. I said nothing. Days later, still weak and hooked to machines, I saw 74 missed calls and a text from Dad. We need you. Answer immediately. Without thinking twice, The fluorescent lights in the office blurred into streaks of white before everything went dark. I don't remember hitting the floor, but I remember the concerned voices of my coworkers hovering above me, someone shouting to call 911 and the distant wail of sirens growing closer. My body had finally given out after months of pushing through exhaustion, skipping meals, and ignoring the warning signs that something was seriously wrong. I woke up in the hospital 3 hours later, disoriented and connected to more machines than I could count. An IV dripped steadily into my arm. Monitors beeped in rhythm with my heartbeat, and my head throbbed with a pain that felt like my skull was splitting open. A nurse with kind eyes stood beside my bed, adjusting the flow of medication. "You're awake," she said softly. "You gave everyone quite a scare. Your blood pressure was dangerously low, and you're severely dehydrated and malnourished. The doctor will be in shortly to discuss your condition." "Did you call my emergency contacts?" I managed to whisper, my throat raw and dry. "Yes, sweetheart. We called the numbers you had listed, your parents and your sister." I nodded weakly, expecting them to arrive any minute. My family lived only 40 minutes away. Surely they'd drop everything to come see me. Despite our complicated relationship, despite the years of feeling like an outsider in my own family, I convinced myself this would be different. This was serious. This was life and death. The doctor came in an hour later, a tall woman with graying hair and a stern expression that softened when she looked at my charts. "Miss, you're lucky your colleagues acted quickly. You're suffering from severe exhaustion, malnutrition, and what appears to be the beginning stages of organ stress. Your body essentially shut down. I'm ordering complete bed rest IV fluids and a full panel of tests. You'll be here for at least a week, possibly longer." A week? I tried to sit up but immediately felt dizzy. "At minimum. Your body needs time to recover, and we need to understand what's been happening to you. Have you been under significant stress?" I almost laughed. Stress didn't begin to cover it. Between my demanding job as a senior financial analyst, the pressure to be perfect, and the emotional exhaustion of always being the forgotten daughter, my life had become a marathon of survival. "You could say that," I replied. Hours passed. The sun set outside my window, painting the hospital room in shades of orange and purple. Nurses came and went, checking my vitals, adjusting my medication, bringing me small cups of broth that I could barely stomach. But no family appeared. My phone, which a nurse had retrieved from my purse, sat on the bedside table, silent and accusatory. By the second day, I finally worked up the courage to check it. The battery was nearly dead, but I managed to open my social media before it would need charging. That's when I saw it. My sister Natalie had posted a photo 8 hours after I collapsed. The image showed her, my parents, and her husband at some upscale restaurant, all smiling broadly with cocktails raised. The caption read, "Family day without the drama." Sometimes you need quality time with people who actually matter. Blessed to have a family that knows how to prioritize what's important. I was tagged in it. She had tagged me in a post celebrating a family gathering that specifically excluded me while I was lying in a hospital bed, while doctors were trying to figure out why my 28-year-old body had simply given up, while I was alone and terrified. My hands shook as I set the phone down. The heart monitor beside me started beeping faster, and a nurse rushed in with concern etched across her face. "Honey, your heart rate just spiked. What's wrong? Are you in pain?" "I'm fine," I lied, but tears were already streaming down my face. Just tired. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. She adjusted my pillow, dimmed the lights, and told me to rest. But rest wouldn't come. All I could see was that photo, those smiling faces, that caption. The casual cruelty of it made my chest ache worse than any physical pain. This wasn't new. Being overlooked by my family had been the story of my entire life. From the moment my sister was born 3 years after me, I became invisible. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong, the daughter my parents actually wanted. Her achievements were celebrated with parties and gifts. Mine were met with lukewarm acknowledgement and immediate critiques about how I could have done better. When my sister graduated high school, my parents threw her a massive party and invited everyone they knew. When I graduated summa cum laude from college, my mother said it was nice and asked if I could help set up for my sister's birthday party the following week. When Natalie got engaged, my mother cried tears of joy and immediately started planning an extravagant wedding. When I landed my dream job at a prestigious financial firm, my father asked if the salary was really that good and suggested I should have negotiated harder. The pattern was so consistent, so relentless, that I'd learned to stop expecting anything different. But somewhere deep inside, some stupid, hopeful part of me thought that maybe a medical emergency would be different. Maybe almost dying would finally make them see me. I was wrong. The days in the hospital blurred together. Doctors ran test after test, discovering that my collapse had been caused by a perfect storm of chronic stress, inadequate nutrition, and undiagnosed hypothyroidism that had gone untreated for years. My body had been screaming for help, and I'd ignored it because I was too busy trying to prove I was worthy of love and recognition. My coworkers visited. My boss, a no-nonsense woman named Margaret, whom I'd always found intimidating, brought flowers and sat with me for an hour, telling me the company would cover my medical bills and that I should take all the time I needed. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months showed up with magazines, chocolate, and stories to keep me entertained. But my family's silence. I didn't call them. Something had shifted inside me during those long, quiet hours hooked up to machines. A clarity I'd never experienced before settled over me like a cold blanket. I could finally see my family for what they were. People who had decided long ago that I didn't matter and that nothing I did would ever change that. So I focused on healing. I ate the meals the hospital provided. I did the physical therapy exercises. I met with a therapist who helped me understand that my worth wasn't dependent on my family's validation. Slowly, painfully, I started to rebuild myself from the inside out. On day 6, everything changed. I'd been sleeping when my phone started ringing. I'd asked a nurse to charge it the previous day, and now it sat on my bedside table, fully powered and insistent. Once, twice, 3 times. I ignored it, assuming it was a spam call, but it kept ringing. By the time I finally grabbed it groggy and annoyed, I had 74 missed calls. 74. All from my parents and Natalie spread across the last 2 hours. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Despite everything, despite the hurt and anger, my first instinct was fear that something had happened to them. Then I saw the text from my father. "We need you. Answer immediately." Not "Are you okay?" Not "We heard you were in the hospital." Just a demand. My hands steadied as I unlocked my phone and read through the messages that had piled up. From Natalie. "You need to call Dad right now. This is serious." From my mother. "Your sister needs you. Family emergency. Call us." From my father. "Stop ignoring us. This is about your sister's future. We need you to fix this." There it was. The truth laid bare in plain text. They didn't need me. They needed what I could do for them. I scrolled back through my contacts until I found Derek, my sister's husband. We'd never been close, but he'd always been cordial to me at family gatherings. I sent him a simple message. "What's going on?" He responded within minutes. "Your parents invested all their savings in your sister's business venture 2 months ago. It failed last week. They're facing bankruptcy and need money immediately. They think you have savings they can borrow." I stared at that message for a long time. Years of memories flooded back. Every time I'd offered to help with something and been brushed off. Every achievement I'd earned that had been dismissed. Every holiday where I'd been an afterthought. Every birthday date forgotten. Every time I'd needed them and they hadn't shown up. And now they needed my money. The money I'd saved by working myself into a hospital bed. The money I'd accumulated by living in a modest apartment instead of the fancy condo Natalie occupied. The money I put away by skipping vacations, buying generic brands, and never asking them for a single dollar since I graduated college. My phone rang again. My father's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for 3 full rings before answering, my heart rate spiking enough that the nurse at the station glanced through my door with concern. "Where have you been?" he barked. "We've been trying to reach you for hours." "In the hospital," I said calmly, "where I've been for 6 days after I collapsed at work." There was a pause, a brief telling pause. "Oh, well, you sound fine now. Listen, we have a situation and we need your help." Not "Are you all right?" Not "What happened?" Just a transition straight to his needs. "I heard your sister's business failed." "It's not her fault," he said quickly. "The market shifted. These things happen. But your mother and I invested significantly 2 months ago, and now we're in a difficult position. We need to borrow some money to stabilize things." "How much?" $200,000. I actually laughed. It hurt my still healing body, but I couldn't help it. $200,000, I repeated. "Lend," he corrected. "We'll pay you back once things stabilize." I sat up straighter in bed, ignoring the protests from my sore muscles. "Let me understand this correctly. You're calling me while I'm in the hospital recovering from a collapse that could have killed me to ask for money. The timing isn't ideal, but this is urgent. We could lose everything. When I collapsed at work, the hospital called you. Did you know that? Another pause. We were busy that day. We had plans. I saw the post, I said quietly. Family day without the drama. That was me. I was the drama you were avoiding while I was lying in a hospital bed wondering if I was going to die. Don't be theatrical, he snapped. You're clearly fine. Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a quiet final click like a door closing for the last time. I'm not fine, Dad. My body shut down because I've been running on empty for years, trying to make you people notice me. But you never will you? Because in your eyes I've never been worth noticing unless I can do something for you. That's not fair. You are our daughter. Then act like it. I shot back, my voice rising. The monitors beside me began to beat faster. Act like I matter. Act like I'm more than just a backup plan for when your favorite daughter screws up. Now you listen here. No, you listen. The answer is no. I'm not giving you money. I'm not lending you money. I'm not fixing this for you. If you don't help us, we'll lose the house. Your mother will lose her home. The manipulation was so blatant, it was almost impressive. Then you'll lose the house, I said. You made a choice to invest everything in Natalie's business without doing your due diligence. You made a choice to prioritize her over me my entire life. You made a choice to go to a restaurant instead of visiting your daughter in the hospital. Those were your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. You're being incredibly selfish. Family helps family. You're right. Family does help family. But here's the thing, Dad. You stopped being my family a long time ago. You just never noticed because you never looked. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but it was different this time. Not from fear or hurt, but from something that felt startlingly like freedom. Within minutes, my phone exploded with messages. I read through them methodically, each one revealing more about the situation than they probably intended. My mother's first message read, Your father said you refused to help. How can you be so heartless? Your sister is devastated. She tried so hard with her business. My sister's message was longer, more manipulative. I can't believe you. Mom and Dad put everything into my boutique marketing firm because they believed in me. It wasn't my fault that 3 major clients backed out at the last minute. These things happen in business, but now they're going to lose their house because you won't help. You've always been jealous of me, haven't you? This is your chance to watch me fail, and you're loving it. I set the phone down and closed my eyes. The nurses had warned me to avoid stress, but this felt different. This felt necessary, like lancing an infected wound. More messages kept coming. My mother sent a photo of their house with the caption, This is what you're taking from us. My sister sent screenshots of her failed business accounts as if showing me the numbers would somehow make me feel guilty enough to hand over my savings. My father's next message was a voice recording. I almost didn't listen to it, but curiosity won out. His voice came through my phone speaker, tight with anger. I don't know where this attitude is coming from, but it needs to stop. Your mother is crying. Your sister is having panic attacks. You have the means to help this family, and you're choosing not to, out of some petty grudge. When you were growing up, we fed you, clothed, you put a roof over your head, we paid for your education. You owe us this. I listened to it twice, analyzing each word like I would a financial report. The entitlement was breathtaking. They had done the bare minimum required of parents, and now expected me to bankroll their mistakes. A text from my sister followed. Derek thinks I should just let you abandon us. He doesn't understand family like we do. That message told me Derek had probably tried to talk sense into her. I made a mental note to reach out to him separately. My mother called next. I answered, already regretting it. Sweetheart, she began, her voice dripping with false sweetness. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Your father can be too direct sometimes. Let me explain what's really happening. I understand what's happening perfectly, Mom. No, you don't. You don't see how much stress we've been under. Natalie's business was supposed to be our retirement plan. We were going to sell the house, move somewhere smaller, and live off the profits from her company. But now that's gone, and we have nothing. You have Social Security, I said. You have Dad's pension from his years at the plant. That's barely enough to cover basics. We can't live like that. We've given our whole lives to building something better. And what exactly did you build, Mom? I asked quietly. What did you sacrifice? The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take them back. I raised 2 daughters. I kept a home. I supported your father through every career change. You raised 1 daughter, I said. You tolerated my existence while you doted on my sister. That's not true. We loved you both equally. Really? Then tell me my last birthday. Tell me when I graduated college. Tell me what my job title is. Silence stretched across the line. I waited. "That's not fair," she finally whispered. "You're always so independent. You never needed us like she did." "I was independent because I had to be," I said. "Because every time I needed you, you were too busy with Natalie to notice." "You're twisting things. You're making us sound like terrible parents." "I'm stating facts," I replied. "And here's another fact. I almost died 6 days ago, and you went out for drinks instead of coming to see me. That tells me everything I need to know about where I rank in this family." "We didn't know it was that serious." "The hospital called you and said I collapsed at work and was in the emergency room. What part of that sounds not serious?" Her voice hardened. "Fine, you want to play the victim? Go ahead. But when we lose our home, when your sister loses everything she's worked for, that's on you. You'll have to live with that guilt." "I'll manage," I said dryly. "You've changed. You used to be such a sweet girl." "I used to be a doormat," I replied. "There's a difference." I ended the call and immediately blocked her number. Then I blocked my father's. I hesitated over Natalie's name for only a second before blocking her too. The relief was instantaneous. My chest felt lighter, like I'd been carrying a heavy weight and had finally set it down. A nurse came in to check my vitals, frowning at the monitor. "Your stress levels are elevated. Is everything okay?" "Actually," I said, surprising myself with the truth of it, "I think everything is finally going to be okay." The nurse smiled, though confusion flickered in her eyes. "That's good to hear. The doctor wants to run one more test tomorrow morning, but if everything looks good, you might be able to go home the day after." Home. The word felt different now. Not the place where my family was, but the apartment I had created for myself. My space, my sanctuary, my life. After she left, I pulled out my laptop, which Margaret had brought by, along with some work files I'd requested. But I wasn't interested in work. Instead, I opened my banking app and looked at my savings account. $463,000. 6 years of careful saving, of living below my means, of sacrificing small pleasures for long-term security. Money I'd earned through 80-hour work weeks, skipped vacations, and promotions I'd fought for. This was mine. Every penny of it represented a piece of myself I had traded for financial stability, and they wanted to take half of it to fix a problem that wasn't my responsibility. I thought about my childhood home, the house they claimed they would lose, a 3-bedroom colonial in a nice suburb, with a 2-car garage and a backyard. I'd spent 18 years in that house, and most of my memories there were of being alone. While my parents attended Natalie's soccer games and dance recitals, I'd sit in my room doing homework or reading. While they celebrated her achievements, I'd eat dinner by myself in the kitchen. That house had never really been my home. It had been a building I lived in, nothing more. I opened my email and started drafting a message to Derek. I kept it simple. "I heard about your wife's business and my parents' financial situation. I want you to know that my decision not to help isn't about punishing anyone. It's about finally putting myself first. I hope you understand. If you ever need to talk, I'm here." I sent it before I could second-guess myself. His response came within an hour. "I understand completely. To be honest, I've been trying to get your sister to see how she treats people for years. This business failure has shown me things about her that I can't ignore anymore. Your parents enabled all of it. You're doing the right thing for yourself. Don't let them guilt you into changing your mind." Reading his message, I felt a mix of validation and sadness. Sad that even my sister's husband could see the dysfunction I'd lived with my entire life, but validated that I wasn't crazy or cruel for setting boundaries. I spent the rest of the evening researching. I looked up filial responsibility laws in our state asset protection strategies and the legal requirements for cutting off contact with family members. Knowledge was power, and I wanted to be prepared for whatever they might try next. What I discovered was both reassuring and disturbing. Our state did have filial responsibility laws, but they were rarely enforced and required proof that parents were destitute and had no other means of support. My parents' pension and Social Security income would likely protect me from any legal obligation. However, the fact that they might try to use these laws against me revealed just how far they were willing to go. I also learned about restraining orders, cease and desist letters, and the process for legally documenting harassment. I saved all the messages they'd sent me, backed them up to the cloud, and created a detailed timeline of events, starting from my collapse. A notification popped up on my phone from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. "This is Paula, your mother's sister. I heard what's happening. Before you make any final decisions, I think we should talk." Aunt Paula. I hadn't seen her in years. Not since some family gathering where she and my mother had gotten into a fight about something I couldn't remember. They'd been estranged ever since. "I'm not changing my mind," I typed back. I'm not asking you to. I want to tell you something about your mother and Natalie that you should know. Can we meet for coffee once you're out of the hospital? My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity got the better of me. Why should I trust you? Because I cut off your mother 12 years ago for the same reasons you're cutting her off now. And because you deserve to know the truth about why they've always treated you differently. That got my attention. What truth? Not over text. This needs to be said face to face. I live about an hour from you. Name the place and time, and I'll be there. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to block this number too, and move on with my life. But another part of me, the part that had spent 28 years wondering what was wrong with me, why my family couldn't love me, needed to know. Give me your number. I'll call you when I'm discharged. She sent her contact information, and I saved it under Paula. The next morning brought more tests and more doctors, examining my charts with concerned expressions. My primary physician, Dr. Reeves, sat on the edge of my bed with a tablet in his hands. Your organ function is returning to normal, which is excellent news. We're starting you on thyroid medication, though it will take several weeks before you feel the full effects. However, I'm concerned about the psychological factors that led to this collapse. Have you been in contact with the hospital's mental health services? I've had 2 sessions with a therapist here. She's recommended ongoing treatment. Good, he said. I want to be very clear with you. This collapse was your body's way of forcing you to stop. If you go back to the same lifestyle, the same stress levels, the same patterns, this will happen again. And next time you might not be so lucky. His words hung in the air like a warning bell. I understand. Do you? He pressed. Because I've seen too many young driven professionals ignore these warnings. They promise to change, then they're back in the ER 6 months later or worse. I'm taking it seriously, I assured him. I'm making changes. Big ones. He studied my face for a moment, then nodded. I'm going to clear you for discharge tomorrow, but with strict conditions. No work for at least a month. Regular therapy sessions. Weekly follow-ups with your primary care physician. And if you experience any concerning symptoms, you come back immediately. I will. After he left, I sat in the silence of my hospital room and thought about the life I'd been living. The 90-hour work weeks. The meals skipped because I was too busy. The sleep sacrificed to meet deadlines. The relationships neglected because I was always trying to prove something. And to whom was I trying to prove it? People who would never acknowledge my worth no matter what I achieved. My phone buzzed again with another unknown number. This time it was a long message from someone claiming to be Natalie's business partner, a woman named Simone. I don't know if you remember me, but we met at your sister's engagement party 3 years ago. I need you to know the truth about what happened to our business. Your sister has been telling everyone that clients backed out unexpectedly, but that's not what happened. She was embezzling money from the company. She used business funds for personal expenses, expensive vacations, designer clothes, all charged to the company credit card. When I discovered it and confronted her last year, she convinced your parents to buy me out and take over my share of the business. That was the investment 2 months ago. They gave her another $100,000 on top of what they'd already put in. Within 8 weeks, she burned through all of it. I have documentation of everything if you ever need it. I'm sorry your parents lost their money, but I wanted you to know it wasn't bad luck or market forces. It was your sister's fraud. I read the message 3 times, my stomach churning. Embezzlement, fraud. And my parents had enabled it by buying out her business partner instead of holding her accountable. Why are you telling me this? I typed back. Because Natalie told me you're refusing to help them, and she painted you as selfish and heartless. But I remember you from that party. You were kind to me when no one else was paying attention. You asked about my business plans and actually listened. I thought you deserved to know what really happened. Do you still have the documentation? Every receipt, every bank statement, every text message where she admitted what she was doing. Can you send it to me? I might need it. Sending now. Over the next hour, my email filled with PDFs and screenshots. Bank statements showing charges to luxury resorts and high-end boutiques. Text messages where my sister casually mentioned using company money for personal trips. Receipts for items that had nothing to do with marketing or business development. The evidence was damning. I forwarded everything to my personal email, to my cloud storage, and to a backup drive I kept at home. Then I sent Simone a final message. Thank you. This helps more than you know. I hope you stick to your decision, she replied. People like your sister never change. They just find new people to exploit. I leaned back against my pillows, processing this new information. It didn't change my decision. It solidified it. This wasn't just about neglect or favoritism. This was about a pattern. My phone rang again. A local number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. Hello. Hi, this is Karen from the hospital billing department. I'm calling to discuss your account. My heart sank. Is there a problem? Actually, no. Your employer contacted us and arranged to cover all of your medical expenses in full. I just need to confirm a few details for our records. I blinked back sudden tears. Margaret had told me the company would help, but I'd assumed she meant partial coverage or a payment plan. They're covering everything. Yes, ma'am. All hospital charges, physician fees, medications, everything. Your account balance is 0. After I hung up, I sat there crying quietly. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that my colleagues and my boss cared more about my well-being than my own family did. This was what support looked like. This was what people did when they actually valued you. I needed to remember this feeling, to hold on to it when doubt crept in about my decisions. The calls continued throughout the day. My mother tried guilt. Natalie tried anger. My father tried threats. I blocked them all. Each number that disappeared from my phone felt like removing another weight from my chest. Derek sent me one more message. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Good luck. I appreciated that more than he could know. The hospital discharged me on day 8 with strict orders to rest, maintain proper nutrition, continue my medication, and attend regular therapy sessions. Margaret picked me up personally and drove me home. You look different, she observed as we pulled up to my apartment building. I feel different, I admitted. Lighter. She smiled. Take a month off. Paid. I'm serious. You've given this company 6 years of exceptional work, and we almost lost you because of it. Rest. Heal. Figure out what you want your life to look like. Over the following weeks, I did exactly that. I turned off my phone most days. I cooked real meals and ate them slowly. I went for walks in the park near my apartment. I started reading again, something I hadn't done for pleasure in years. I met with my therapist twice a week and began unpacking decades of damage. I also met with an attorney named Patricia Green, a sharp woman in her 50s who specialized in family law and estate planning. I wanted to make absolutely certain that if something happened to me, my assets would go to charities and organizations that actually mattered, not to people who only pretended I mattered when they wanted something. 3 months after I left the hospital, I received a letter from my parents' attorney. They were suing me for family support based on some obscure filial responsibility law they'd dug up. Patricia laughed when she read it. They have no case, she assured me. These laws require proof of destitution and proof that the child has the means to support them without hardship. Plus, you have documentation of their neglect during your medical emergency. If they want to go to court, we'll bury them. I told her to respond with a counteroffer. I would agree to drop my potential lawsuit for emotional damages stemming from their abandonment during my medical crisis if they agreed to never contact me again to sign documents relinquishing any claim to my assets both now and in the future, and to remove me from all their legal and emergency contact lists. They signed within 3 weeks. Apparently, the threat of a public lawsuit detailing their neglect was more persuasive than I'd expected. My sister tried to reach out once through a fake social media account. She sent a long message about how I was tearing the family apart, how our parents were suffering, how I was being cruel and vindictive. I read it once and deleted it without responding. The truth was, I wasn't being vindictive, I was being honest. For the first time in my life, I was prioritizing my own well-being over their comfort. I was choosing myself. 6 months after my collapse, I stood in my newly renovated apartment, surrounded by friends who had become my chosen family. Margaret was there, along with several colleagues who had visited me in the hospital. My therapist had helped me understand that family wasn't about blood. It was about showing up, about caring, about being present in the moments that mattered. These people had shown up. They had cared. They had been present. My biological family had proven definitively and repeatedly that they would never be those things for me. And finally, blessedly, I had stopped expecting them to be. My phone buzzed with a message from Derek. Your sister and I are getting divorced. She hasn't changed, and I can't do this anymore. Watching you set boundaries earlier this year helped me realize I needed to do the same. I wanted you to know and to thank you. I wished him well and meant it. A year after my collapse, I got promoted to Director of Financial Operations. The salary increase was substantial, and I'd been planning for months what I wanted to do with it. I booked a 2-week trip to Italy. Standing on a balcony in Rome, watching the sunset paint the ancient city in shades of gold, I felt my phone buzz. Another unknown number. I answered. Hello, is this the daughter of Charles and Brenda? An unfamiliar voice asked, professional and polite. My stomach tightened. Yes. I'm calling from Riverside Medical Center. Your parents were in a car accident. They're stable, but they're asking for family. The old me would have panicked, would have booked the first flight home, would have rushed to their bedside. The new me asked calmly, "Are they in immediate danger?" "No, ma'am. They'll both recover fully with time." "And they have insurance?" "Yes, ma'am." "Then they have everything they need. My attorney had me removed from their emergency contact list months ago. You shouldn't have my number. Please update your records." I hung up and turned off my phone. There was a small twinge of something that might have been guilt, buried under layers of self-preservation and hard-won peace. They had made their choices. They had decided I didn't matter when it was convenient. They had taught me through years of consistent behavior that I was only valuable when I could serve their purposes. I had finally learned the lesson they'd been teaching me all along. The Italian sunset was breathtaking. The air smelled like espresso and fresh bread. Tomorrow I would visit the Colosseum, eat pasta made by someone's grandmother, and maybe meet someone who wanted to know the real me. My phone stayed off for the rest of the trip. When I finally turned it back on at the airport heading home, there were no messages from my family. No apologies. No expressions of concern. Just silence. And for the first time in my life, that silence didn't hurt. It felt like peace. It felt like exactly what I deserved. Peace, space, and freedom from people who had never truly seen me at all. Without thinking twice, I had chosen myself. And I would keep choosing myself every single day for the rest of my life. That was my revenge. Living well, living free, living without the weight of their expectations, and neglect dragging me down. Some people might call that cold. I call it survival. I call it self-respect. I call it finally understanding that you can't make people love you and you shouldn't destroy yourself trying. The scars from my collapse would always be there, both physical and emotional. But they were reminders now, not wounds. Reminders that I was strong enough to survive, strong enough to change, and strong enough to walk away from people who should have loved me but chose not to. That was the real story. Not about revenge in the traditional sense, but about reclaiming myself from people who had spent my whole life making me feel small. About finding family in unexpected places, and learning that blood doesn't obligate you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I landed back home late in the evening, exhausted but content. The next morning I woke to find that Margaret and a few close friends had left welcome home gifts outside my apartment door, Italian wine fresh flowers, and homemade cookies. A note from Margaret read, "Welcome home. Can't wait to hear about your trip. Dinner this weekend." As I unlocked my apartment door, I smiled at the photos I'd hung on my walls. Pictures of friends, of adventures, of moments that mattered. Not a single photo of my biological family among them. The thoughtfulness of my chosen family, the people who showed up for me when it mattered, reminded me daily that I'd made the right choice. This was what family looked like. This was what love looked like. And I would never again settle for anything less.